Hello, and welcome to the Full Circle Podcast, your source for insights into the science and art of endurance sports training and racing. I'm your host, Coach Laura Henry. I still remember the first time I saw a pair of cycling shoes. I swore that I would never, ever wear such a ridiculous thing on my feet. I was going to wear quote-unquote normal-looking shoes, aka shoes that look like sneakers and that had laces. Boy, was I wrong. I was completely ignorant to this truth back then, but there are very good reasons why cycling shoes look the way they do, and cycling-specific shoes have a very important purpose. In addition to coaching cyclists and triathletes for many years, I've been a certified bike fitter since 2017, and I've worked in a few bike shops over the last decade. I also worked at Fleet Feet Syracuse for many years, and in my work there, I assessed thousands of feet, literally thousands, and helped thousands of people find properly fitting footwear. Over the years, I've seen many of the bike fit and bike shop customers I've worked with dismiss cycling shoes the same way that I initially did. But also, because of that work in bike fitting and in bike shops, I've come to realize and appreciate just how important cycling shoes actually are. Before I knew anything about the sports of cycling and triathlon, I would have told you that cycling shoes were a marketing ploy and/or something that cyclists wore to make themselves look and feel cool while they were out riding their bikes. I've since learned that cycling shoes, even those that do resemble sneakers, are not the same thing as running shoes or sneakers. Though, to the untrained eye, such as mine back then, they can certainly look similar. Technically, any shoe can be worn as a cycling shoe because any shoe can be worn when you pedal a bicycle. However, cycling shoes are footwear that are specifically designed for the unique demands of cycling. A bicycle is a human-powered machine. Well, traditional bicycles are anyway. E-bikes are a different story for a different day. And this human-powered machine is powered by you, the human, when you pedal it. A bicycle's pedal is connected to a crank arm, which has chain rings attached to it. The rear wheel of a bicycle has a cassette, and a chain runs around the cogs in the cassette and the chain rings on the cranks. Collectively, all of these pieces that I just discussed are called a bicycle drivetrain. When you press down on the pedal of a bicycle, energy, power, is transferred from you, the cyclist, into the bicycle's drivetrain. This transfer of power is what makes the bicycle move forward. Cycling shoes are shoes that are specifically designed to assist with this transfer of power. Though some models of cycling shoes may look like sneakers or other shoes that you are more familiar with, cycling shoes have stiffer soles than regular sneakers or regular footwear to help with this transfer of power and to make the activity of cycling more comfortable. Because cycling shoes are designed to be used for cycling and not for walking around or other weight-bearing activities, they have a very long useful lifespan, a minimum of 5 to 7 years or 8 to 10,000 miles for most cyclists. A good pair of cycling shoes can make a tremendous difference in your cycling experience, and they can be the difference between you loving your time on the bike or hating it. There are only 3 contact points on a bicycle: your feet, your pelvis, and your hands, or your arms if you're using aero bars. Thus, it's really important to ensure that each of these contact points is optimized so you have the best chance possible at being comfortable while you ride. Properly fitted and selected cycling shoes can help you unlock your performance potential and lower your injury risk by ensuring that you are properly supported from the foot up while you are riding a bike. Understanding the anatomy of a cycling shoe goes a long way when it comes to selecting the right cycling shoe. The terms for different parts of a cycling shoe can be confusing, especially since some people incorrectly use some of these terms interchangeably. The most important elements of a cycling shoe are the upper, the sole, the toe box, the heel counter, the heel collar, the heel, the midfoot, the forefoot, length, width, volume, and cleats. The upper. The upper of a cycling shoe is the most visible part of the shoe, and it refers to all parts of the shoe that sit on the shoe's sole. Effectively, this is the pretty part of a shoe, though I certainly didn't think so the first time I saw a pair of cycling shoes. But its purpose is not purely cosmetic. The upper of a cycling shoe helps keep your foot in place, and it helps protect the foot. Some common features of the upper of a cycling shoe are mesh, leather, and lacing systems. Mesh is a synthetic material that allows your feet to breathe while you are cycling, and it helps moisture generated by sweat to evaporate. Your feet produce half a pint of sweat in a normal day, and they produce much more while you are actually cycling. This is because the feet contain the highest concentration of sweat glands in the entire human body, with more than 250,000, a quarter of a million, sweat glands in each foot. Cycling shoes were originally made with leather as the main material of the upper. Leather is durable yet flexible, allowing it to conform to the shape of the foot contained within the shoe and to stretch with use over time to give the feet more room in the shoe. Some cycling shoes still do have uppers constructed out of leather, but most cycling shoes on the market today have uppers that are constructed from synthetic materials. Synthetic materials allow for more breathability while riding, but they sacrifice suppleness to do so. This means that if a shoe with a synthetic upper is tight when you purchase it, it will remain tight and it will not quote-unquote break in the way that leather shoes used to. Lacing systems allow you to adjust the tightness and fit of the shoe to fit your foot shape and your needs. There are many different types of lacing systems used on running shoes: traditional laces, Velcro, and BOA dials. Traditional laces are tied like you would tie a regular sneaker or any lace shoe. Velcro systems allow you to control the tightness and fit of the shoe at different points on the shoe where the Velcro tabs are located, and are sometimes used in conjunction with BOA dials. BOA dials are a patented fit system that allows for a micro-adjustable fit for cycling shoes. They are used in conjunction with extremely durable, low-friction laces. BOA dials enable a wearer to distribute pressure evenly over their foot and to decrease the amount of pressure points imposed on their foot by the lacing system. They are arguably the most secure and most customizable lacing system available for cycling shoes. Another great feature of BOA dials is that they have a lifetime warranty. So if they ever break or stop working as designed, you can get replacements sent to you for free and swap them out. The sole. A cycling shoe's sole is what would be referred to as a tread on a traditional shoe. It is the bottom, most outer-facing part of the shoe, and it is most commonly constructed out of plastic or carbon fiber. Unlike almost all other footwear, the main purpose of the sole in a cycling shoe is not to provide traction and grip on the surface you are traveling on. While you can walk around a little bit in them, the sole in a cycling shoe is not designed to be walked on for extended periods of time. Its main purpose is to transfer power from the body into the bicycle's drivetrain. The stiffer the sole is, the more power it can help transfer. Because cycling shoes are so much more stiff than normal footwear, they can actually be quite uncomfortable to walk around in. A very important part of a cycling shoe's sole is its stiffness index. The stiffness index of a cycling shoe is what distinguishes them from everyday shoes, and it refers to how stiff the sole of the shoe actually is. Different cycling shoe manufacturers have different ranges for their stiffness indexes, but for all of them, a lower number represents a more flexible sole, and a higher number represents a stiffer sole. Generally speaking, shoes with a higher stiffness index are more expensive than shoes with a lower one. Plastic soles have a lower stiffness index, while carbon fiber soles have a higher one. Stiffer soles have better and more efficient power transfer than more flexible soles. A stiffer shoe limits torsional and lateral flex in the foot, which is what makes it more efficient. A bicycle pedal is smaller than a human foot, and as such, a more flexible shoe, such as a traditional sneaker, means that the foot itself will flex over and around the pedal during each pedal stroke. Microflexing of the foot around a bicycle pedal like this can be extremely fatiguing for the muscles of the feet, especially over the course of a longer ride. It can also cause cramping and hot spots within the feet. The fact that cycling shoes are stiffer than regular shoes and therefore limit these microflexes of the muscles of the foot while you are riding is the number one reason, athletes should consider wearing cycling-specific shoes when they are riding a bicycle. The toe box. The toe box of a cycling shoe is the front part of the shoe where your toes rest while the shoe is being worn. Wider toe boxes allow for more room for your toes to splay out, which can reduce friction and blisters, and for you to produce more power while cycling due to an increase in the surface area you are using to push against as you pedal. The shape and the size of the toe box is arguably the most important feature of a cycling shoe when it comes to fit. Most toe boxes in cycling shoes have drainage features to release water through the sole, which is helpful when riding in rainy or wet conditions. The heel counter. The heel counter is part of the shoe's upper, and it is located at the back of a cycling shoe, below the heel collar. It is shaped like a V or a U, and it is usually made from rigid materials such as plastic or carbon fiber that can be mounted internally within the upper or externally on the outside of the upper. The purpose of the heel collar is to provide support and stability for the heel and the Achilles tendon area of the foot, which it does by preventing the foot from slipping in and out of the shoe while you are pedaling. The heel collar. The heel collar is also part of the shoe's upper. It is sometimes called the heel cuff, and it is found at the back of a cycling shoe toward the top where the heel rests on top of the heel counter. Because the heel counter is generally pretty rigid, the heel collar is constructed out of padding and soft materials, and its main purpose is to make this area of the shoe more comfortable. The heel. The heel of a cycling shoe refers to the entirety of the rear part of the shoe, but it's most often used to refer to the rear part of the sole of the shoe. This term is also sometimes used interchangeably to refer to the actual heel of the foot itself. This part of a cycling shoe is much less important than it is in traditional shoes, since you use the forefoot to push on the pedals, and since cycling shoes are not intended to be walked around in for extended periods of time. The midfoot. The midfoot of a cycling shoe refers to the entirety of the middle part of the shoe, but is most often used to refer to the middle part of the sole of the shoe. This term is also sometimes used interchangeably to refer to the actual middle part of the foot itself. The forefoot. The forefoot of a cycling shoe refers to the entirety of the front part of the shoe, but is most often used to refer to the front part of the sole of the shoe. This term is also sometimes used interchangeably to refer to the actual front part of the foot itself. This is the part of the foot and sole that is making contact with the pedal and is transferring power from your body into the bicycle's drivetrain. Length. Length is the feature of a shoe most people are familiar with. It refers to the actual length of the shoe, measured from the top of the forefoot to the rear of the heel. We commonly refer to length as shoe size. This measurement is expressed in numbers, but perhaps confusingly, different regions of the world use different numbers to represent this measurement. For instance, in the United States, we use different numbers to indicate a man's size and a woman's size. For instance, a woman's size 11.5 and a men's size 10 are the same length. Europe does not make a distinction between genders when it comes to sizing. A men's 10 and a woman's 11.5 in the United States are both a 44 in Europe. To make matters even more confusing, while cycling shoes are often sized according to the sizing standards of the country where they are being sold, it is actually more common for cycling shoes to be primarily labeled and sold per their European sizing, even if the shoe is being sold somewhere like the United States. This is because the sport of cycling originated in Europe, and as such, European sizing has become the industry standard for sizing cycling shoes across the entire world. In the United States, there are 3 full shoe length sizes for every inch, which means that there is a 1/3 of an inch difference between full shoe length sizes and a 1/6 of an inch difference between half shoe length sizes in the US. In Europe, there are 4 shoe length sizes for every inch, which is due to the fact that the European sizing is based on centimeters, not inches. As such, there are smaller increments between European full sizes and half sizes. There is a 1/4 inch difference between full sizes and a 1/8 inch difference between half sizes in Europe. Width. Width is probably the second most familiar feature of a shoe. It refers to the measurement of the shoe itself from the lateral outside part of the sole to the medial inside part of the sole. This measurement is expressed in different ways in different parts of the world. In the United States, it is expressed in letters. Very confusingly, the same letters do not mean the same width size for each gender in the United States. For instance, a men's medium, or regular as some people call it, width is a D, while a woman's medium or regular is a B. Even more confusingly, the labels of sizing on cycling shoes sold in the United States are often a hybrid of European and United States sizing. While sometimes cycling shoes' widths are labeled using the common terms such as narrow, medium, or wide, it's not uncommon for the shoe's length to be expressed as the length standards used in Europe and the shoe's width to be expressed as the width standards used in the United States. Volume. Volume refers to the measurement of the shoe from the top of the sole to the top of the upper. It corresponds to the actual volume of a person's foot, which is measured from the ground to the top of their foot. In my humble opinion, volume is tied with toe box when it comes to the most important elements when it comes to the sizing and fitting of shoes. Cleats. Some cycling shoes are compatible with cleats, which are replaceable units that allow the rider to use a clipless pedal system. Cleats are mounted on the sole of a cycling shoe. The type of pedal that is on your bicycle will determine what type of cycling shoes you should be using. There are two main types of bicycle pedals, flat pedals and clipless pedals. Flat pedals are also known as platform pedals, and they are probably the most recognizable type of bicycle pedal. These pedals provide a wide, stable, flat surface on both sides of the pedal for you to place your foot on to push against and pedal the bicycle. You are able to put your foot anywhere you like on the pedal itself, and you're able to stop and put your foot down very easily since your shoe and foot is not connected to the pedal. Clipless pedals are very confusingly, I know, also known as clip-in pedals. These pedals work with clipless shoes, also known as clip-in shoes, to connect your shoe directly to the pedal via a cleat that is attached to the outside of the sole of the shoe. In essence, you're locking the pedals to your feet when you use a clipless pedal or shoe system like this. One of the most significant benefits of clipless pedal systems is that they keep your foot in an optimal position over the pedal to ensure that you are able to maximize your power transfer. This optimal position has the metatarsal heads, aka the tops of the long bones in your foot where they connect with the toe bones of your foot, bisecting the pedal spindle. There are different types of cycling shoes that are best used with each of these pedal systems. Cycling shoes that do not have any cleat compatibility are able to be used on flat pedal systems. These shoes are still stiffer than regular shoes and therefore help transfer power more effectively while cycling. Cycling shoes that are compatible with cleats can be used with clipless pedal systems, and which one is best for you is determined by what type of riding you'll be doing. Unlike running shoes, which are classified by how they are constructed from a support perspective, most cycling shoes have similar levels of support, though different models of cycling shoes will have different stiffness indices, which is different than traditional shoe support. Cycling shoes are classified by the type of cycling that they are designed for, and it's important to pick the style of shoe that suits the style of riding that you intend to do. There are two main categories of cycling shoes: road cycling shoes and off-road cycling shoes. Road cycling shoes are so named because they are designed to be worn when cycling on the road. This type of cycling shoe is designed to maximize how much power is transferred from the rider into the bicycle's drivetrain, and they are able to do this because the soles of road shoes are very stiff, and their cleats are the widest out of the different types of cycling cleats. Almost all road cycling shoes are compatible with cleats that have what is known as a 3-bolt setup. There are many different shapes of road cycling cleats, but all of them are compatible with this 3-bolt setup, meaning that any shape of road cleat can be used on any road cycling shoe with a 3-bolt setup. Any cleat that is compatible with a 3-bolt setup is mounted on the outside of the shoe's sole, which exposes the cleat and makes the shoe difficult to walk around in. Since road cyclists do not get on and off their bikes as much as other types of cyclists might, this is generally seen as an acceptable trade-off for the extra power transfer that such a cleat setup provides. Off-road cycling shoes are cycling shoes that are designed to be worn when cycling on non-road surfaces such as trails. There are a few different subcategories of off-road cycling shoes: mountain bike shoes, gravel shoes, and cyclocross shoes. Mountain bike shoes are cycling shoes designed to be worn while mountain biking. A defining feature of mountain bike shoes are stiff, rugged, lugged soles. They are slightly less stiff than road cycling shoes, but they still offer excellent power transfer from you into the bicycle. While the main purpose of a mountain bike shoe is the same as other cycling shoes, to transfer power, since mountain bikers tend to get off and on the bike more than road cyclists, due to the fact that some sections of trail may not be rideable and therefore the cyclist may need to hike them, the rugged, lugged soles of mountain bike shoes provide traction on rough terrain. Most mountain bike shoes are compatible with cleats that have what is known as a 2-bolt setup. Cleats that are compatible with a 2-bolt setup are smaller, in terms of surface area, than cleats that are compatible with 3-bolt setups. 2-bolt cleats are recessed into the shoe's sole, which makes shoes with this type of setup easier to walk around in than road cycling shoes. Having a smaller surface area means that you do sacrifice a bit of power transfer by riding with this style of cleat, but the trade-off for better walkability is considered worth it for this style of riding. Perhaps confusingly, there are generally 4 screw holes available in a 2-bolt setup. The reason for this is to give the rider options about the fore and aft placement of the cleat so it can be personalized and optimized for each individual rider. Gravel shoes and cyclocross shoes are very similar to each other, and they are only marginally different from mountain bike shoes. Gravel and cyclocross shoes are made from very durable materials, especially in the upper, so they can withstand the rigors of this type of riding, which includes leaping over barriers, riding in dusty and muddy conditions, and on gravel trails. Additionally, they have soles that are more rugged and lugged than road shoes, but are not quite as rugged and lugged as mountain bike shoes. They are also compatible with 2-bolt cleats, making them easier to walk around in when you get on and off the bike frequently. Once you determine what type and category of cycling shoe will be best for you, it's time to move on to finding the right fit. The most important things to consider when it comes to the fit of cycling shoes are trying on the shoe properly, foot length, foot width, foot volume, and foot shape. The number one mistake I see cyclists making when they try on cycling shoes is that they try on cycling shoes like they try on regular shoes. However, as I've mentioned many times by now, cycling shoes are not designed to be walked around in. They are designed to be used for cycling, riding a bicycle. Therefore, to determine if a cycling shoe is fitting your foot well, you need to simulate the position that your foot will be in while you are pedaling a bicycle. When you pedal a bicycle, your foot does not remain completely flat due to the pedal's rotation around the bottom bracket of the bicycle. Therefore, trying on cycling shoes with your toes and heels on the ground is ineffective in terms of determining if the shoe will fit you well while you are cycling. In order to determine your best cycling shoe fit, you need to put your foot in the position that it will be in for a majority of your pedal stroke. This means that you need to come forward onto your forefoot while lifting your heels off the ground to properly try cycling shoes on. If you are trying on shoes that are compatible with cleats, you want to come forward onto the part of the shoe where the cleat will be installed. This will allow you to simulate what position your foot will be in when it is clipped into the pedal. For most riders, your foot will slide forward slightly in the shoe when you do this, and it's for this exact reason that it's so important to simulate this position. If you don't, you may very well end up purchasing shoes that are too short for you to ride comfortably in. The second biggest mistake that I see riders making when trying on cycling shoes is that they don't try on cycling shoes with the same socks that they will be cycling in. All too often, riders are trying on cycling shoes wearing their normal socks. It's very important to replicate how you'll be using and wearing the shoe as closely as possible if you want to have the best chance at finding a cycling shoe that fits you well. Normal socks are often thicker than the socks that riders wear while cycling, which will significantly impact how the shoe fits when you try it on. Do yourself a favor and try on cycling shoes with the same socks you plan to ride in. You can determine your foot length, which is the measurement of your foot from the tip of your toes to the back of your heel, in a few ways. Using a Brannock device was the way that we did this for almost 90 years. In the late 2010s, it became more common to use computerized measuring systems. Both the Brannock device and the computerized systems can be accurate, though some computerized systems do have the advantage of being able to see your foot in all three of its dimensions and to give you more information on sizing for length, width, and volume. For cycling shoes, your shoe size should actually be at least a half size longer than your foot size, and perhaps even a full size longer than your foot size. Remembering that we use European sizing for cycling shoes, this means that if you measure a size 40, you should be looking at trying on shoes that are at least a size 40 and a half or 41. The reason for this is that you want to give your foot, and especially your toes, room to flex and move well in your shoes. Shoes that are too tight restrict the movement of your toes, which can cause blisters, hot spots, and foot cramping. In addition, it also impairs your ability to use your foot like a lever to transfer power into the bicycle's drivetrain. Furthermore, over the course of a ride, your foot will swell a bit, and it's important to allow extra space for this natural process to happen. When you try on a pair of shoes, ensure that you are trying them on in the position mentioned earlier, where you are keeping your heels slightly off the ground and are putting weight through your forefoot to simulate the position your foot will be in while you're pedaling. When your feet and shoes are in this position, you should have at least half a thumbnail's length of space between the end of your longest toe, which may or may not be your big toe, and the edge of the shoe. When determining your foot length and your shoe length, it's incredibly important not to be vain about what that number is. It's very common for customers to come into the bike shop with a preconceived idea of what they should be wearing, and they were often upset and sometimes borderline offended if I recommended that they wear a larger shoe size than they are used to. No one, and I mean no one but you, actually knows what size of shoe you wear. And quite frankly, no one cares. Think about it. How many times in your life have you looked at someone else's shoes and thought something negative about them because of how long their shoes were? Foot width is the measurement of your foot from the inner edge of your forefoot to the outer edge of your forefoot, and this measurement should be taken across the widest part of your forefoot. A Brannock device is also designed to assess foot width in addition to foot length, and the newer computerized systems can measure foot width as well. While most people were most sensitive about their foot length and shoe length, some customers who I've worked with over the years are also sensitive if I suggest that they wear a wider shoe than they are used to. Understanding your foot's width and your appropriate shoe width is really important because neglecting to do so can cause some of the same mobility issues that having the incorrect length can. You want your foot to have an appropriate amount of surface area to properly splay out to help you pedal well through the entirety of the cycling pedaling stroke. Additionally, shoes that are too tight are a source of a lot of feet issues and ailments. If you look at our shoes, we have shoes that are designed to meet an external physical aesthetic that we have. The majority of shoes are not designed to look like actual human feet. While cycling shoes do fit more snugly than regular shoes or traditional footwear, any shoe that is too tight, especially across the forefoot, compresses the metatarsals, the long bones in the foot, and this can lead to a bunch of different issues, including plantar fasciitis, Morton's neuroma, and bunions. A bunion is a bony bump that forms at the base of the big toe when the bones in the foot, most notably in the first metatarsal and the big toe, shift out of place. A lot of people who have bunions think that bunions are primarily genetic because their parent or their grandparents had them. However, what I think is more probable is that people, along with their parents and grandparents, have been wearing ill-fitting footwear for a majority of their lives. And this footwear that they've been wearing aligns with a culturally desired aesthetic that does not resemble the shape of human feet. They have been doing this for generations and generations. Combined with true genetic factors, such as bone structure and arch height, wearing shoes that are too tight can create a perfect storm for bunions to occur. Foot volume is the measurement of your foot from the ground to the highest or tallest part of your foot. This measurement is also sometimes referred to as your instep. It's important to note that this is not the same thing as your arch height, which is the measurement from the ground to the top of the curved or arched part of the medial inside of your foot. After fitting thousands of people during my years working at Fleet Feet and in my work as a bike fitter, I can say with certainty that most people don't even consider the volume of their feet, let alone the volume or the height of the shoes that they are wearing. At best, they consider the length. If we're lucky, they might consider the length and width of their feet in shoes. However, these are only 2 dimensions, and your foot is 3-dimensional. This is what makes volume so incredibly important. It represents the 3rd dimension of the shoe, which goes on your 3-dimensional foot. You need to account for all 3 of your foot's measurements if you are going to find the shoe that fits, feels, and works best for you. Finding a shoe with the proper amount of volume is important because too much pressure across the top of the foot can cause tingling and numbness throughout the entire foot due to too much pressure imposed on the nerves and blood vessels running across the top of the foot. A shoe that has too much volume relative to your foot will cause you to slip and slide while the shoe is on, which is annoying and uncomfortable to say the least. One of the more common reasons that riders come to me seeking to get a bike fit is because their feet are going numb while they are riding. This is often, though not always, related to their cycling shoes and how they are fitting on their feet while they are riding. Shoes that are too shallow, aka not tall enough, for a rider's feet will cause toe numbness and tingling because the nerves across the top of the foot are compressed and the blood supply to the foot is restricted because there is too much pressure being applied to the top of the foot because there isn't enough space in the shoe for the actual height of the rider's foot. The final piece of the fit puzzle is your foot shape. As the name indicates, foot shape refers to the actual shape of your foot. A lot of people have a V-shaped foot, where their heel is narrower than their forefoot, and their midfoot V's out to meet their forefoot. Another common foot shape is a straight-shaped foot, where the difference between the width of the heel and the width of the forefoot is not as significant as it is for people who have V-shaped feet. People who have straight-shaped feet have midfeet that are more or less straight as they go out from the heel to meet their forefoot. The easiest way to determine a given shoe's shape is to flip it upside down and to look at its sole. If the shoe V's towards the midfoot, that shoe will work best on a foot that is V-shaped. If the shoe is more straight through the midfoot, it will work best on a foot that is straight-shaped. Cycling shoes are a specialty shoe, and as such, they are not carried widely at in-person retail locations. Most bike shops have some cycling shoe models you can try, but even bike shops often have a limited inventory and selection available due to how infrequently people purchase cycling shoes. Remember, cycling shoes have a long, useful lifespan, much longer than traditional footwear. Shopping online has become the most common way that riders get cycling shoes. All of this can make trying different styles, types, and shapes of cycling shoes very challenging. Because of this friction barrier, many riders don't try on a lot of different cycling shoes, and/or they often settle for the first shoe that they try or the cheapest option that they come across. As such, riders get a limited amount of experience with how a cycling shoe should actually feel and with how different cycling shoe models really can feel so different from each other. And because of this, too many riders think that some amount of discomfort is a normal part of riding a bicycle. Let me tell you, plainly and simply, it is not. Left to their own devices, most riders will just deal with cycling shoes that are slightly uncomfortable. If they do end up trying to decipher what is uncomfortable about their shoes or what is causing pain in their feet, they often try different lengths of shoes. They might also try different widths in this quest to be more comfortable. But when riders tell me that their feet and/or their shoes are uncomfortable while they are riding, it's almost always due to their shoes having a combination of the wrong size and the incorrect volume. It's important to make sure that all 4 pieces of this puzzle, length, width, volume, and shape, are taken into consideration when you determine whether or not a cycling shoe is fitting your foot well. If a cycling shoe fits a rider's foot well, that leads to the shoe performing well for the rider. A lot of people have spent a lot of time analyzing the technology in different cycling shoes, the weight of cycling shoes, and more things to determine which cycling shoes perform, quote unquote, the best. In my humble opinion, Proper fit is the single most important thing when it comes to shoes that will determine whether or not a rider has a comfortable riding experience wearing a given pair of shoes, which then leads to them having their best possible performance. The second most important element to determining whether or not a rider's feet will be comfortable while riding is the stiffness index of the shoe. Once you've found a cycling shoe that fits your foot shape and size well and has the stiffness index that feels best to you, you may benefit from further personalization in the form of a cycling shoe insole. Cycling shoe insoles are also referred to as cycling shoe inserts or orthotics, and this refers to an extra form of support, usually made from a combination of foam, plastic, and/or carbon fiber that can be added to your cycling shoes. It should be noted that orthotics really actually specifically refer to insoles made by a medical provider, such as a podiatrist, whereas cycling shoe insoles or inserts can be purchased without a prescription at a retail store, such as a bike shop or a bike fit studio. One of the main features of cycling shoe insoles is that they stabilize the three arches of the foot: the transverse arch, the lateral arch, and the medial arch. By doing so, they stabilize the entire foot and allow for a more equal distribution of pressure and pedaling forces, and therefore power, across the entire foot. Many people mistakenly think that their cycling shoes come with arch support. The truth is that cycling shoes do not have built-in arch support. Cycling shoes are flat on the side of the sole that your foot actually touches when you are wearing the shoe. Cycling shoes do come with something called a sock liner, which is a very thin piece of cheap foam that lays on top of the midsole on the inside of a cycling shoe. A sock liner's only purpose is to protect you from being chafed by the seams and stitching that join the sole to the shoe's upper. In short, a sock liner is there for your comfort, and it does not provide any kind of support. When using cycling shoe insoles, you remove the sock liner and put the cycling shoe insoles in the shoe instead. When we are walking or running, our foot goes through a gait cycle that consists of a combination of pronation and supination. Pronation refers to the rotation of the foot as it moves downward and inward as part of our gait cycle. All humans pronate. It is a normal, natural, and desirable part of our gait cycle, both in walking and in running. Pronation is an important part of our gait cycle because it helps the foot absorb impact forces and adapt to the shape of the terrain that is beneath us so we can move about it safely. In contrast, supination refers to the rotation of the foot as it moves downward and outward. Supination is important because it helps the foot stabilize before the foot propels us forward. Both pronation and supination are necessary and desirable motions that help us move about the world when we walk or run. However, when we are pedaling a bicycle, we are not seeking to have our feet adapt to the terrain beneath us. Instead, we are seeking to have our foot interact with the pedal of the bicycle to generate power and momentum to propel us forward, whether that pedal is a flat pedal or a clipless pedal. About 87 to 90% of people have what is known as a varus forefoot, which means that the ball of the foot is elevated in relation to the outside of the foot when the foot is not bearing weight. The much less common valgus forefoot means that the outside of the foot is elevated in relation to the ball of the foot when the foot is not bearing weight. This varus forefoot is exactly what allows the foot to adapt to terrain when we are weight-bearing, walking, and running by turning the foot inward. It complements pronation and helps us with both propulsion and shock absorption. However, in cycling, a varus forefoot causes an inward rotation of the shin, which then causes the foot to collapse against the platform of the pedal and the knee to move in repeatedly each time you pedal. Unlike when we're walking or running, we're not offloading that collapse in cycling. Over time, this repetitive side-to-side motion can cause knee pain and overuse injuries. Because of all of this, without a cycling shoe insole, pedaling forces are concentrated through the big toe and the first metatarsal, which is the long bone in the foot located behind the big toe. This amount of concentrated pressure can cause discomfort and pain for a lot of riders. By stabilizing the three arches of the foot, a cycling shoe insole helps compensate for the forefoot varus that most people have, which in turn stabilizes the knee and keeps it in a neutral position throughout the pedal stroke. This allows the knee to travel in a nearly straight vertical line, so that your leg tracks more like a piston as you pedal the bicycle. A varus wedge, which is a plastic insert that is placed under a sock liner or a cycling shoe insole, can also help with this by elevating the ball of the foot up slightly, usually by about 1.5 degrees, to keep it more level with the outside of the foot. Some cycling shoes, such as specialized body geometry cycling shoes, have varus wedges built into the soles of each of their shoes. A common misconception about cycling shoe insoles is that they are only suitable or useful for people who have flat feet. The term flat feet refers to people whose arch collapses while they are in a standing or weight-bearing position, thereby giving the appearance that the bottom of their foot is completely flat. While cycling shoe insoles can absolutely be a benefit to people who have flat feet, the three-dimensional nature of cycling shoe insoles makes them suitable even for people who have arches that remain stable and retain their shape in a standing or weight-bearing position. This is because the three-dimensional cycling shoe insole provides a tactile cue for the foot. When the foot feels the insole, it is able to interact with it, which helps it feel more stable. This, in turn, enables the rider to move through the pedal cycle with more economy. Without a cycling shoe insole, someone who has high, stable arches would otherwise have a gap of empty space between the bottom of the medial inside of their foot and the shoe. This can cause the foot to carry more tension, which limits the mobility of the toes while you are pedaling. A cycling shoe insole effectively enables the foot to relax, which means that it can move more efficiently when pedaling a bicycle. Just as there are a wide variety of different sizes and shapes when it comes to feet, there are a wide variety of different shapes and sizes when it comes to the arches of the feet. As a result, cycling shoe insoles come in many different shapes and sizes. They are also different from running shoe insoles or any other orthotic or insole that you would wear when you're walking or running. Cycling shoe insoles are meant to specifically support the pedaling action of a bicycle. And so you can't use the same insole that you would use that's meant to help you propel through the walking or running gait cycle. When you are looking for a cycling shoe insole, it's important to find one that fits into the shape of your foot well. It's helpful to imagine that the insole is like a puzzle piece coming to meet your foot. The insole and your foot should mesh together seamlessly. I commonly advise runners and multisport athletes to have multiple pairs of running shoes, as there is a decent amount of research that shows that switching between different models of running shoes can reduce injury risk by at least 39%. This is not the same in cycling. The main reason to get more than one pair of cycling shoes is if you will be using the shoe for different riding styles or in different riding conditions. For instance, if you are a rider who enjoys both road riding and mountain bike riding, and you have a road bike and a mountain bike, it's worthwhile to consider getting a pair of road cycling shoes to ride your road bike with, and a pair of mountain biking shoes to ride your mountain bike with. Or, if you are a rider who likes to ride year-round, you may want to consider getting a traditional shoe for temperate conditions and a shoe that is designed for cold weather conditions. Both road cycling shoes and mountain biking shoes come in cold weather styles that are more insulated and waterproof. There are a lot of elements that go into determining what the right shoe is for a given cyclist. The process to find the right cycling shoes might take a bit of time, maybe more than a bit of time, and quite a bit of trial and error, but it's well worth the effort. If you are feeling overwhelmed by this process, do not hesitate to go to your local bike shop or to connect with a trained bike fitter and to work with someone who is an expert in the cycling shoe fitting process, as well as cycling shoe technology. Once you find a pair of cycling shoes that fits and works well for you, you can rest easy for a long time since cycling shoes have such a long lifespan. However, if you ever decide to get a different style of cycling shoe, or when you do need to replace your cycling shoes in the future, understanding the fundamentals of what makes a given cycling shoe work for you in the first place will enable you to apply those principles moving forward when you are in the market for a different pair of cycling shoes. If you are armed with knowledge and a little bit, or maybe a lot of it, of patience, you'll be able to find the right cycling shoes for you. That was another episode of the Full Circle Podcast. Subscribe to the Full Circle Podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you like what you listen to, please be sure to leave us a rating and review, as this goes a long way in helping us reach others. The thoughts and opinions expressed on the Full Circle Podcast are those of the individual. As always, we love to hear from you and we value your feedback. Please send us an email at podcast@fullcircleendurance.com or visit us at fullcircleendurance.com/podcast. To find training plans, see what other coaching services we offer, or to join our community, please visit fullcircleendurance.com. I'm Coach Laura Henry. Thanks for listening.